Do these glasses give me the googly eyes or what? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sens Nation Podcast. Coming up today, some Drake Batherson talk, which the Sens aren't very happy about. The Nick Jensen injury has some clarity. We have an official diagnosis. Tyler Kleven gets a 2-year contract. Could Jonathan Toews fit in with the Sens? And yay or nay on 7 Senator UFAs. A headline that's included exclusively because it rhymes. All still ahead today here on the program. It's Steve Warren, along with the coach, Greg Kennedy. Greg, how are you today?
I'm good, Steve. I had to do some moving around here in the humble abode because, as we both know, if I sit at my usual spot during the day, we are recording in the morning here, the sunlight comes through, and it's you and I refer to it as the apocalypse sunlight. So I had to move over to the other side of the room here, and I hope it looks okay for everybody watching at home. You can critique my book collection if you like, but it's much better over here. I think we look okay.
Good. Yeah, and that's for our YouTube viewers, obviously, and for those of you who are watching on audio, check out YouTube. Why not? And, like some days when that sun is going, that scene in The Avengers where Tony Stark, gets the arms out and everything, and the big explosion in the background, that's sort of the light we're talking about. But anyway, let's jump in today. Drake Batherson came up this week, and it was out there in several places that Drake Batherson's name may be out there. Bruce Garriock from Post Media said there were 3 NHL executives saying that he was, quote, a name to watch on the trade front. And so that got tongues a-wagging. It brought up the name, potentially, Jason Robertson in Dallas, because Dallas, of course, as we know, is in cap hell, so they may have to purge a little bit, and Batherson would represent some savings. So all kinds of dialogue about maybe Drake Batherson being on the trade market. Before we get into the Sens' reaction to it, let's first get your reaction to Batherson's name just even being out there as publicly as it was this week.
Right from the get-go, it makes no sense. It's a very, very, very team-friendly contract. It is a proven 20-goal scorer at minimum. And if you think you need to get more scoring, trading a guy that produces 20 a year isn't the right way to go about it, in my mind. It just made no sense that he would be somebody that would be out there and available. I understand that the only positive to it is it's an appealing piece. If I wanted to acquire a player, that money, that production, that's a hell of a piece. I'd love to get that player. But if you've got him, why are you going to give him up? That part made no sense to me. And I enjoyed reading your article about it, and it was nice to see Michael Landauer come up and basically state the team's position emphatically that he's not up for sale.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. My thought was that Drake Batherson is closer. I mean, I'm going to say this. Like, everybody is tradable. I mean, I'll put Brady Tkachuk's name in that. If the right deal comes along, the right package deal, you have to consider everything. Wayne Gretzky got traded. We said that a million times. If he can get traded, anybody can get traded. But the implications seem to be that because maybe Batherson had a tough playoffs, that it's not just a case of them being willing to move a player, that maybe they're actively shopping the player almost in a this guy's not for us sort of scenario. And I don't think that's the case at all. And like you said, Michael Landauer shot that down in a big way. To me, I'll go one step further, though. If you're to, and I mentioned this in the article this week, if you're to put Drake Batherson on the Ottawa Senators spectrum of, on one side you've got untouchable, and then on the other side you've got trade bait, I've got this player closer to the untouchable side than the other. And for guys that are not named Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, or Jake Sanderson, to me, Drake Batherson is as untouchable a player as the Sens have on their roster.
Bang on. And it's because of the contract and the production. What more could you want from a guy? Like, yes, would you like to see him score 30 or 35? Yeah, we would. But that doesn't mean it's never going to happen. Doesn't mean he's not on a projection career-wise to someday become that. Like, he has his inconsistencies production-wise, but He's a solid citizen who produces for you a year in, year out, and you got him on a really good contract. No need to move him.
So the Sens were not happy about it, just as they were not happy with Larry Brooks and some of the New York media for putting it out there that if Tkachuk might be available in a trade with the New York Rangers, that kind of thing. And at the time, Michael Andlauer spoke quite angrily about it. It's like, not right. It's not right. It's not true. He's our captain. Get out of here with that stuff. And the same thing happened with the Batherson thing this week because the Sens held their golf tournament at the Canadian Golf and Country Club. Their alumni tournament, I should point out. So I don't think any of the active players were there, but a lot of the alumni, including the owner and GM Steve Stais, they were there as well. So that was an opportunity for the media to stick a mic in their faces. And Andlauer, as the media waited for him, he walks across the putting green, the practice green just outside the clubhouse, and clicks his heels. So a happy guy, and comes up and immediately starts wondering, okay, where's Bruce Garriock? I know he's not here. He's making false claims about Batherson. So he's not very happy, and I wouldn't put all this on Bruce because lots of people were talking about this. So he was not very happy about it. What did you think of his reaction? Because the extended part of this conversation, you've already sort of touched on that, but, if you're going to react to all these things, every time there's a trade rumor that's out there, first you had Tkachuk, then you had Batherson, what will it mean the next time a trade rumor comes around and you don't react to it?
Yeah, that was a great point that you brought up to me like 3 minutes ago here, Steve, before we turned the mics on. I'm thinking, yep, you're absolutely right. That's very interesting. Maybe from now on he just doesn't say anything about anybody, because you can't comment on them all unless you're going to comment. Yep, oh yeah, that one's true. We're trying to move that guy. So he's kind of painted himself into a corner if this is to become his regular MO here. If any name gets out there, then we're going to completely refute it, stop it, shut it down right away. But yeah, what do you do if suddenly there's rumors out there about a package deal involving Shane Pinto or Ridley Gregg? And if we don't hear any comment from Michael Andlauer, are we then to conclude that, oh my God, this one's true? So, yeah, he's kind of painted himself into a corner. Maybe he needs to have a press conference to explain that from now on he's never going to talk about trade rumors. Maybe that's the only way he gets out of it.
I appreciate that he did it because I know where it's coming from. I know it's coming from the heart. He's trying to be thoughtful. He's trying to be considerate to his players. And I really like he's a hockey player. You can tell he's played hockey through his whole career, and he's a massive fan. See his reactions up in the press box. And he knows what this kind of dialogue can, to do to a player. Like, he's really just a good guy. Like, I'm been really impressed with him. However, it may not serve him very well because, when he doesn't talk about the next trade rumor, you mentioned, let's say it's Gregg and Pinto, and that trade rumor's out there. And let's say, maybe they are working on things. They're in talks, and those two players are involved. And you don't react to those trade rumors that are out there. That means you could construe, at least the perception in the locker room might be that it's true because you didn't react on it the way you did with Batherson and Tkachuk on those false rumors. And the extension of that is, well, they're going to be traded anyway, right? So it's not that big a deal. Well, what if the deal falls apart in midstream?
Right.
Now it's out there unnecessarily in a way that you were going to move these guys potentially, and you've probably unnecessarily disrupted the way the players feel about being part of the organization. Oh, I heard they were talking trade for me. It didn't work out and everything, but I sure feel expendable right now. So, yeah, I don't know if he has to do a news conference, but I do think that it probably is good practice. Maybe he does, but I think it's good practice to moving forward. Just, not indulge.
I'll even tell you why I think he does, because if there's one of these trade rumors later and he comes out and they say, hey, Mike, what do you think about this one? What's going on with this rumor? And his reaction is, hey, look, excuse me, in the past I've commented on these things and I probably shouldn't do that. I'm not going to say anything about trade rumors anymore. If he does that statement at the time that rumors are out there, then nobody's going to believe him. But if he does it now and says, in the future, I'm not going to be doing this, that lends just a little more credibility to it in the future when he doesn't say anything, I think. Because if he waits till the time comes, nobody's going to believe him.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you do. I agree that you do it before the next trade rumors get
Yeah.
out there. Maybe there'll be another media opportunity where you can kind of just insert it into the discussion,
By
as
the
he did
way-
with Batherson.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. You were saying, by the way, I thought you were starting a new.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, he was saying, next
Yes.
time he's standing around with the crew, with the media, just, hey, by the way, I'm not going to be talking trade rumors anymore. Something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, so Drake Batherson not going anywhere, and we'll try and get Drake on the show later on this summer, and swap some text with him this morning, and we both agree that the second hole at the Marsh is the most difficult in Ontario. We both agree it's a par 7, but that's all I can tell you about that. Anyway, moving on, Nick Jensen, his status, his specific diagnosis, although it's been out there in rumors. It was confirmed by GM Steve Staios at that same golf tournament. Nick Jensen had surgery on his hip. His hip has been bugging him for the second half of the season. He played through it. Didn't practice very much at all, but played right through the playoffs. Didn't miss a game in playoffs. Did miss some regular season action, so some days were worse than others. And after doctors had a chance to kind of poke and prod, they decided that hip surgery was what would happen. What Staios was not able to tell anybody, or not willing to tell anybody right now, is just don't know anything about timelines at this stage of the game. So let's address the injury first.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you think about hip pain, if you've ever had it, and how it it's taken careers down. It makes you wonder. Wow, like Jensen was still pretty damn effective all in all. But to think that he was playing through massive hip pain on a nightly basis, that's pretty damned impressive.
That's a pretty serious, important, big joint that's required in skating. This just in. So you're dealing with pain in your hips. Man, like, I don't know, knee pain, yeah, but you can kind of straighten your leg and maybe try to compensate. But it's pretty tough to skate, pretty tough to stride without your hips moving. So he must have been in a lot of pain. And my only experience with hip surgery is my father got a hip transplant, and he was up and walking around in 3 days. So this isn't quite a hip transplant. I know that transplants are, apparently that's the way it is for everybody. It's boom, they pop a new one in and off you go. It's not that difficult. But this isn't a transplant, obviously. There's more intricate surgery required here, so who knows how long it's going to take. And that will factor into everything, as we've discussed many times here on the show. Trades and free agency, the whole off season is really sort of affected by Nick Jensen's recovery time, right? What quality of defenseman are you looking for, or are you not really looking for a defenseman at all? Is all based on, it all hinges on Nick Jensen.
I was almost going to call Adam Lowry Nick Lowry, but I'm pretty sure he's not the Kansas City Chiefs former kicker. Adam Lowry had hip surgery. And we don't know exactly the nature of the hip surgery that Jensen had, but if it's something like what Lowry had, I think Graham Nichols was talking about this, that it was like a 5 or 6 month recovery period, and it was like the kind of the shaving of the hip bone to relieve pain, and so that was a 5-6 month wait, which would take us into the season, though not crazy into the season, and so if that timeline is in effect here, and it takes you into, like, say, mid-November. Like, is missing the first month of the season for Jensen, is that enough time missed where you're going shopping this summer for another right-shot defenseman?
Well, the other thing you have to factor in is Ottawa Senators history, October, November. So in that case, I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, it becomes more important that you have somebody here to play in your top 4 to start the season. This team, even under Travis Green this year, not exactly the greatest start again. Like, I think it's, I think it becomes that much more important to the Ottawa Senators that you need to have a solid top 4 to start the season. And it looks like it's not going to be Nick Jensen. So this is a kind of a plus, right? You go out and find a guy who can solidify and play in the top 4, but he's probably more suited to be a 5-6. How much better is your 5-6 now if the guy you bring in is capable of playing your top 4? Having said all of that, maybe Tyler Kleven's the guy. Maybe Tyler Kleven could play his offside, play the right side, and be in the top 4 and play with Shabbat. I mean, that's a possibility as well. I guess that depends on internal evaluations and projections and where they see Cleven being come the fall. And new contract there. I just segued into one of your other points, didn't I? That was pretty cool. Good for me.
Yeah, if I was ready to move into that subject, then we'd be all set. But yeah, back to Jensen for a second here. The other factor that has to be considered when thinking about do we need to go out and get right shot defense help is he going to be the same player?
Yeah.
And it's not just a matter of 100% recovery. That's one thing for you and I, schlepping around to our day, 100% recovery, and you're going to be 35 when the next season starts. He turns 35 in September. Will he be the same player after surgery? It's hard to say. 100% recovery means, you're fine, you're strong, but are you NHL strong in that area again? And so Nick Jensen's a good skater, but not a great skater, and so it wouldn't be ideal for him to lose a step because he's got these changes that have happened to his body, surgically speaking. So if he's not the same player, then when will he be the same player again? It might take a bit of time. It might not ever come.
Right.
That's the funny thing about surgery. So when I think about all of those things, kind of in the cartoon bubble above my head, the thought bubble, I'm sort of thinking, yeah, I'd be inclined to go out and get some right shot D help, not just because you might need it now, but because you will need it soon. The guy, again, is 35, and you'll need to turn the page on him sooner rather than later.
Well, I think they are looking for a right shot D, right? Well, I think we can all agree on that. But what this does, everything you just said, makes it lean more towards finding a right shot D who's higher up in the roster, who's higher up in the lineup, who plays in the top four, as opposed to just finding somebody to help solidify the bottom pair. That's been the discussion all along. They need a right shot D, but is it somebody to play with Kleven at 6, or is it somebody to fill in for Jensen? I think now it becomes somebody to fill in for Jensen. Somebody not necessarily to fill in for Jensen for 2 months, but maybe to fill in for Jensen a year from now, right? If you can find somebody to play right shot D who can play second pair or even top pair on the right side for when Jensen's done, right? He's 35, coming off surgery. Even if he comes back healthy, he's only really got a year or two left. I don't know. He doesn't seem like the type who's going to play till he's 40. So you really need to start thinking about down the road, we need another right shot D, because I don't know that there's really one in the pipeline who can fit that role.
Yeah, I think I generally agree. I think if Nick Jensen is perfectly healthy and ready for next season, I think I'd be okay with the Sens kicking that down the road for a minute. So, yeah, I mean, that has been the dialogue. They need another right shot D, and they're probably out there looking for one. But if Jensen is healthy, I don't know that necessarily has to happen this year, because I do think that much of Nick Matenpalo and his rapid ascension throughout the organization. The fact that, his national team is giving him looks, and he's performing very well in those looks. So, yeah, and he looked good at the Four Nations, too. So I feel like, yeah, he's 27, and you could say, okay, he is what he is, but he's so young when it comes to NHL experience that maybe we haven't seen the best of him. So I think I'd be okay if Jensen wasn't dinged up. For me, that's the reason I'm looking for right shot defenseman. I might kick it down the road if Jensen were healthy. Now let's move along to Tyler Kleven now. Tyler Kleven got a 2-year contract worth $1.6 million per season. Is that the right number for you?
Yeah, I think you're in the right spot, right? And you bought up a year of a free agency in this deal too. It sounds like a perfect deal for me. It's prove it. If you think you're a $3 or $4 million D, then here's an opportunity for you to prove it. And if you prove it early, like within 2 years, you're not that far away from your next contract, right? It's not like it's a 7-year deal and it's a low number. It's a good number for a player in his position. Whether we think he stepped up and looked real good in the playoffs, and look at this guy go, and he needs more peak gate time. Hey, we can play him more in the top four. Whether you believe all that stuff or not, the fact is he's still only played mostly 5 and 6 sheltered minutes against specific lines. Right, his matchups have been carefully selected. So yes, he looks good, but can he make the jump to the next level or not? Well, now you got a couple of years to find out at a decent price tag.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little more than I thought it was going to be, but it's splitting hairs. 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 extra. who cares in the big picture when the salary cap is going up out of control the way it is. So not going to quibble about that. Like the player a lot. And I really, as with Matt and Paolo, as the season went on, I saw two young men. Well, he's younger than Matt and Paolo, obviously, but I saw two inexperienced NHL defensemen really transition from a player that is just happy to be there and sort of NHL hopeful to basically becoming, I belong here, and seeing them lug the puck like in the last third of the regular season, seeing them, they got time to take a couple of steps and bring the puck up ice and get some movement going and making it that much harder for forecheckers to figure out what the hell the next thing they're going to do is. They seemed in the past, both players, to be on their heels. They get the puck, they're on their heels. It's either like D-to-D pass or a quick pass to a forward, just like get it off my stick. Mm-hmm. Now they're starting to innovate, and that's a real sign of a brewing confidence, isn't it?
Exactly. It's all about confidence, and it's growth, it's maturity, all those things you look for when you originally draft a player, right? You make a projection, and you think, okay, if he matures and gets his confidence and gets better, and we would project him out to be here. And I think that at the best case scenario for a Tyler Kleven or even a Nick Paolo, the best case is they play on a second pair in a shutdown role. And both of them look like they can do that. But again, sheltered minutes, small sample size. Let's not get carried away. We'll see how they are come September.
Both of them got new contracts already. They're both RFAs, and they both got their contracts, and they're both reasonably priced. And they're priced as 5'6" defensemen, and if that's all they are, or that's all they'll ever be, no harm, no foul, and both have a chance to potentially ascend in the lineup. We'll see. But, they're both great contracts. And so Steve Staios and his latest summer of Steve off to a very good start in that area. Moving on to the UFAs that are out there. I know we've dabbled in this over recent shows, but I wanted to kind of check on how you're feeling about things. The biggest name, obviously, is Claude Giroux in UFA, but there are 7 UFAs in all. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of go through the 7 UFAs, yay or nay, with a quick word on why. Let's begin with Giroux because he is the biggest one. This is a club that still has to get Fabian Zetterlund re-signed. We heard Batherson trade rumors this week. They're obviously not true. But what do you think's happening with Claude Giroux, like just reading tea leaves out there?
He gets signed, no question about it. They're just trying to figure out the contract. I think it's just dollars right now. It's going to be a bonus-laden thing because of his age. You can structure the contract so there's a lot of bonuses in it, and they will be easily attainable, and they don't affect your salary cap for another year. So, yeah, it'll get done. It's just a matter of what the split's going to be between salary and easily attainable bonuses, in my mind.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about bonuses is that there's sort of over and above the normal salary cap by a certain percentage. I want to say like 7 to 10%.
Right.
Added to your salary cap effectively for these performance bonuses, particularly I think for guys over 35. I tend to agree for sure. But is he a middle 6 guy or a top 6 guy still?
Well, I guess it depends on how you do with the rest of your summer, the summer of Steve, right? I mean, as of now, if you were starting the season tomorrow, he's in your top 6. I still think he can play some center if need be. So if they end up having to swing a couple deals and it involves one of the younger guys down the middle of the ice, you could open the season with him in your 3 slot at center. But he'll become a Swiss Army knife. He can play. We've seen it. He has chemistry with Ridley Gregg. At the same time, he has chemistry with Stützle. He has chemistry with Kachuk. He can play with anybody, anywhere in your lineup, up and down. So it won't be on the 4th line, but let's say he'll be middle 6, not top 6. Can I get away with that? So he's not a first-line guy, but he's not a 4th liner either.
Right, yeah. But that doesn't answer the question, middle 6 or top 6. But that's okay. We'll leave it at that. So Claude Giroux, everybody thinks it'll happen because he loves it here. It's his hometown. It's his wife's a Canada girl. Great family. Nearing the end. Maybe part of the organization long term moving forward. That would all be ideal stuff. But the money has to be there. We've talked about that part of it. But what if a team like the Montreal Canadiens entered the discussion, entered the chat on Claude Giroux? And I've seen some people speculating on that over the last couple of weeks, that the Habs might show some interest there, because they too have a young team that needs, some mentoring and such. And there's a couple of angles there, and that this isn't exactly an onerous road trip between family and where your home NHL team is, between Ottawa and Montreal, this just in. And the other factor is, I've gotten to know Claude a little bit over many years. He's a guy who grew up a big-time Montreal Canadiens fan. So could the Canadiens enter the fray, do you think?
They certainly could. They could come in with an offer. Their offer, the only way they get Claude Giroux is with money. I don't think anything else about playing in Montreal would appeal to him more than playing in Ottawa, other than money. And I see it as, I'd like to think that money's not the determining factor as to where he's going to play. Like, if money were the determining factor and Utah Mammoth came through with, hey, we'll give you $6 million a year to come play here, I still think he'd say no, because money's not all that matters. So I'd like to think that same sort of thing applies here, and he'd rather be in Ottawa than Montreal. I think he likes it here for all the reasons he just said. Family, his wife's here. He's happy here. He's been with this group for a couple of years. I think Claude Giroux is the type of man who wants to see this thing through. He wants to see this team go a little further than they did this year, and I think he wants to be a part of that. And I believe that, yes, Montreal could be a factor, but I still don't think he would go.
All right. The other UFAs in question. A quick yay or nay. If you've got something strong you want to say
okay,
in defense of your take, then go ahead and do so. Otherwise, just give me a yay or nay. Nick Cousins.
Yay. I should say that the bottom, most of these guys like Highmore, Cousins, Gaudette, I think it all depends on dollar amount. What's the dollar amount going to be? Because most of these guys are interchangeable. The guys that play in your bottom six, especially in your bottom three, it could be anybody. No offense to the guys who do it, but it could be anybody. So I think it just depends on how much money he wants. I prefer Cousins over Highmore, so I would say yay to Cousins.
Yeah, no, it's not even in doubt for me if you're going to, give me that particular comparison. I don't want any part of Highmore versus Cousins. Yay on Cousins because, the more I watch the Florida Panthers, the more I want people in my lineup who play the way the Florida Panthers, and he's got all kinds of Panther pedigree, and that means SOB, and that's part of what makes the Panthers excellent, the knowledge that intimidation is a thing, and they're using it big time to their advantage. As we speak, tied at 1 in the Stanley Cup Final, winning in double OT. How about Brad Marchand, by the way? Speaking of UFAs, just an ageless beauty out there, and just every bit as good as he was 15 years ago.
I'm loving it. I as we both know, I hate the Oilers. I enjoyed last night's game a lot. Marchand with 2 goals. I loved watching his parents in the crowd having fun with it. It was a good game too. It was good to see. Go Panthers.
Stanley Cup Final's been fantastic, no matter who you're cheering for. Back to the UFA list, Adam Gaudette.
I'm a nay, because I just think, I'm a yay for the person and the stats, but I'm a nay for the money and the term, because I think the money and the term that he can get on the open market is more than the Senators should or would want to pay, and I believe that he'd be a fool not to wait till free agency. To sign early would make no sense for him. He's going to wait till July 1st. He's going to get a great offer on day 1, and the Senators are going to say, no, that's too rich for our blood. Sorry.
Okay, I'll intervene if I've got something different to say, and I don't have anything different to say on Gaudette. I feel much the same way. Matthew Highmore, you touched on him.
No, don't need him. He's interchangeable part. Unless he's willing to take a 2-way deal at league minimum, which he would be stupid to take. But if he's willing to do that, sure, sign him.
Travis Hamonic is a nay for both of us. And Anton Forsberg, Steve Stais talked about him and didn't close the book on him, nor would you. But it doesn't sound like he's 100% okay. We're going to move on from him and go to one of the kids, either Merrilainen or Sogard. And Sogard already has his 1-year deal. Merrilainen is currently an RFA. I think the Merrilainen contract's going to tell all.
Right.
But what do you think? Is there any chance Forsberg's back?
Again, comfort level. He enjoys it here. The players like him. The management likes him for some reason. They think he's okay here. But it really does come down to Sogard and Marilainen. How comfortable are you with them? So both of them have had injury stretches that have been bad in the past. But I think that you get Marilainen. If you're comfortable with Marilainen being here as the backup for the whole year, then that's Sogard and some other guy, who cares who, plays down in Belleville. If you're not comfortable with Marilainen or don't think he can do the job, then you've got a ready-made guy right here, right now, the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Then you sign Forsberg and you keep him here as a backup.
I am so done with old school Christmas lights. The tangling, the burning out, the minus 30-degree installation dangling from a ladder. Goodbye Christmas lights. Hello Celebrite, your permanent holiday lighting solution. I've got them on my home right now. When it's daylight, they're absolutely invisible. But at nighttime, things come to life. Right now, with the beautiful weather, we're looking forward to Canada Day. And of course, the classic colors of Christmas. You can really make the lights dance, all controlled from your smartphone. And on those nights when there is no occasion or holiday, you can roll with just a beautiful, subtle white light. And the installation team from Celebrite Ottawa was fantastic. So you can keep on rolling with old school Christmas lights, or you can contact them today at celebrite.ca. Yay! It is going to be an interesting free agency season. It begins on July 1st. But there is one name out there that I was kicking around on the hockey news, thn.com/Ottawa, that I found intriguing, in part because he's signable right this second. Whereas you have to wait, till July 1st with every other UFA, except for your own. Jonathan Toews is out there right now and hasn't played in a couple of years. He's dealt with all kinds of unusual, not injuries, but illness that's just sort of sucked the energy out of him, that he and his agents are behind them now, and he wants to make a comeback. And if Jonathan Toews is right, and by the way, he's 3 months younger than Claude Giroux, who we just talked about. Would you kick the tires if you're Steve Stais on Jonathan Toews, 3-time Cup winner and maybe one of the best leaders active in the NHL right now?
Without hesitation, I would be making the phone call. And the first question would be, hey, are you willing to come here? That'd be before I even get to money, before I get to term, before I talk about where you're going to play in the lineup or bonus structure. At number one, are you at all mildly or emphatically interested in playing for the Ottawa Senators? And if the answer is no, then I'm done. Okay, I investigated. If he wants to come here, then you worry about everything else afterwards. I would love to see Jonathan Toews play here. I think it'd be awesome.
His quote in Chicago back in March, a quote with The Athletic, "I'm not satisfied with the way things ended in Chicago. It's not about proving anything." And why would it be? Because he has nothing to prove.
Yeah.
It's just that there's something left in the tank, and I want to explore that. I want to go and have fun, have a blast, and play with passion. And he's been gradually getting stronger month by month after a couple of many weeks spent in India on what he describes as a healing journey. It's called an Ayurvedic detox.
Yeah, sure.
And it had stories of therapies like induced vomiting and enemas. Mm-hmm. It sounded horrible, but he says as a result of it, he's feeling a lot stronger right now. Oh. And, you think about, there's still a lot of kids on this team. Yeah, it's great that they've got a bit of playoff experience now. That is invaluable. But you got a guy like Toews who's not just won 3 cups, but he's led the Hawks to 3 cups. And that's just another level of leadership and mentorship that this team could benefit from. So yeah, if the price is right,
no brainer.
I think you gotta at least kick the tires on that for sure. And I wanted to mention as well, because I did have the details. According to Puckpedia, while performance bonuses count against the salary cap, teams are permitted to exceed the cap due to performance bonuses to a maximum of the 7.5% of the salary cap. So Not a lot of risk there if you're jamming a bunch of performance bonuses into that mix. And lastly today, I threw this out on social media during Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final after McDavid made that crazy move to get the puck over to Leon Draisaitl. Just unreal. Corey Perry, also unreal, by the way. Is that the biggest goal ever scored by a 40-year-old in an NHL game?
Pretty impressive, huh?
Might be right there. But that play by McDavid had me blurting out stuff on social media, and I said, my Twitter is just being burned down today.
I guess so.
I said that I'm old enough to have watched, and not like I was 4 years old when it started. I'm old enough to have watched Wayne Gretzky's entire career. And with that said, I described Connor McDavid as the greatest player of all time. And a lot of people agree with it. More people agree with it that didn't agree with it, but those who didn't agree with it were really violent about it. For starters, I don't understand why people get so worked up about a hockey take. And where does McDavid compare with Gretzky for you?
Let's say this. There are other factors beyond skill and stats. There is championships matter. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all because I hate it when they don't want to put a guy in the Hall of Fame because he never won. But winning is a factor in greatness. Winning is a factor along with stats, along with stature, along with records and production, along with the quality of the human being, along with his place within the outside world. Like, what kind of person is he? I think that factors into it. There are many, many factors that go into making the decision if you are the greatest of all time. And I think one of them is age and experience and consistency and durability. And I've done it forever, and I'm still going to keep doing it into my late 30s. So I think there's more time to go before I'm prepared to say that Connor McDavid is the greatest player of all time.
Here's what and this is when you say all-time greatest, that's such a vague term when you get down to it because you can break it down and define it however you like. And I guess I was looking at it from the perspective of when I compare McDavid to Gretzky and what goes into what makes a great hockey player, I believe that McDavid does everything better than Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky is a guy I worshipped growing up. He was my favorite player. And obviously I'm cognizant of his statistical greatness, how much better he was statistically than guys in his era, and obviously all the team success he's had as well. But if I'm looking at a player and what makes a player great, whether it's their skating, their shooting, their puck handling, their overall skill level, the way they process the game, their vision on the ice, I think McDavid does everything better. And from that perspective, I labeled him greatest of all time, and I think everybody's got their own definition of what they're talking about greatest all time.
Yeah. I think you could argue that Gretzky only did one thing better than everyone else. There were guys with better shots. Many people could dangle better. Christ, half the league could skate better, right? Passing, he could pass a puck, but lots of guys could pass the puck very, very well. His thing was all the brain, right? The way he saw the ice, his hockey sense, his anticipation, it was all the mental side of the game, and he was leaps and bounds above everyone else. I think that's the only one thing that he was best at all time and while he played. You're absolutely right, though. McDavid does do a lot of things very, very well and does them better than Gretzky, but I still think it's a little too early.
Yeah, it's always that discussion when this stuff comes up is, you take one guy and airlift him, time travel into the other's era. What would that look like? I do feel, and we'll never be able to prove this one way or the other, but I do feel that McDavid would outshine Gretzky back in those days versus Gretzky outshining McDavid in these days.
Oh,
that's how I feel.
Yeah. Gretzky would not be anywhere near the player he was in his day in today's NHL. I honestly believe that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you talk about time comparisons. One little tidbit. They asked Rocket Richard in the 80s. I've probably told you this before. Sometime in the 80s, they said, hey, Rocket, how many goals do you think you'd score in today's NHL? And the Rocket said, 40, 45. They said, Rocket, are you crazy? Guys are scoring 70, 80, 40, 45 goals. What are you, nuts? And Rocket said, well, I am 75 years old.
Yeah, that's a funny one. But you know what? Rocket Richard had no shortage of confidence, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure it was a joke.
Yeah, right.
Same with Phil Esposito. He was like, I think it was the 25th anniversary of the Summit Series, and I remember watching a documentary, and they closed it out with, get me those same guys today. And we're talking 25. I forget what the anniversary was. At least 25 years after.
Right.
But he's like, you get me those guys together again, and we play that series. Do it all over again. I defy you. No one can beat us. Something like that. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find you a bunch of guys in the RA Center in the Open League that could beat you guys now. Sorry, boys. Time gets everybody. Time has run out for the show. Thank you so much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. We always appreciate you being here, whether it's on YouTube or one of your podcast platforms, which we'll call a potform for now. But thank you for being with us, however you're consuming the podcast. Don't forget as well that I'd like you to check out, if you can, thn.com/Ottawa. That's the hockey news page that's devoted entirely to the Ottawa Senators. And the website for this podcast is sensnationhockey.com. Greg, enjoy your weekend. We shall talk to you in our next episode.
Thank you, sir. Talk soon.